Welcome to this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KAJ, a show where we explore the stories behind the stories. Here we dive into the worlds created by authors, discover their inspirations, and ensure that you walk away enriched and inspired. And today we have with us author Hope Fitzgerald, spiritual teacher, intuitive Dowser, uh, coach, healer, end of life midwife, and neurofeedback practitioner, and much more. So we'll talk about her book. Let's today, The Infinity Wave: Mastering the Art of Love, Compassion, and Flow. Welcome to the show, Hope.
Thank you, AJ. Nice to be with you.
Welcome once again to the show, Hope. This time on the Author's Voice with KJ. So we'll be talking about your book. But before that, let's understand, since it's about authors, let's understand your inspiration to become an author. How did this journey begin for you as an author?
Well, I was told by my guide team that I had to write this book. I think they first told me in 2014, and I did my best to reject that idea. I did not want to write it, but they hounded me. Hounded me for years. And so finally, I sat down and I wrote it. Uh, I don't know exactly why I was resisting so much, but I did. And once I finally got my head around it, it came out pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So, tell us about this. Let's come to the book itself, the Infinity Wave, mastering the art of love, compassion, and flow. What is this all about? What is this the Infinity Wave, all about? How should a common person understand it? Maybe it's about them to their liking, but maybe they don't know from the title.
Well, this is why the guide team was so insistent that I write the book, because the infinity wave is an energy technology, let's say, that came to me in a series of visions in 2010. And it is meant for the whole world. And that's why it had to become a book. The infinity wave is, when I say energy technology, I mean something, when we think about love, we think about compassion, we think about uh, these kinds of big overarching feelings, and they're kind of energies, right? When when you're in the energy of love, you just feel that warm, runny feeling, right? It's you can't put your hands on it, but it's in you, and it's a force, and it's moving. Compassion is the same way. When you something horrible happens to somebody near you, or somebody's very sad, or big disaster, whatever, we have an outpouring of compassion for whatever it is that just occurred. That's an energy. It's not something you can put your hands around. So the infinity wave is an energy technology comprised of a very powerful and distilled and high order of love and compassion. So we don't think about the fact that we think love is love and compassion is compassion, but it's not really like that. I came to discover love and compassion have kind of different levels. And when in the infinity wave, it's a very, very high, pristine level of love and compassion, so much so that it doesn't really have an emotion. It's so clear, it's so pure, it's not emotional. And so in that sense, it's this energy technology. When we So my guides told me that it's from the 10th dimension. So we don't have to get into the weeds about dimensions, but that's just an example of how what a high frequency it is. So when we introduce something from that high of a frequency into our reality, which is much more dense, our 3D reality, suddenly there's an effect of changing our reality into something better, something higher, faster, more elegant, more full in flow. These energies of love and compassion, this high frequency of love and compassion, introduced to 3D, for has the effect of creating flow. Flow is love and compassion. Love and compassion is flow. When we are in that state, we are in a state of flow. And when we're in a state of flow, we're not in a state of resistance. And so when things happen to us, we are much more easily going to work with them, grow through them, adapt, adjust, evolve in a state of flow rather than the opposite. This is why this is meant for the whole wide world, because we're all in a very chaotic system right now in the world. And we need ways to stay in that flow state of love and compassion as we go through it.
Absolutely. I will come to the infinity wave once again. But first, about the book. What's in the book, within the book? How, because it's a book, there must be a lot of stuff in it. So help us understand what you've got in the book.
Well, it's not a huge book. It's kind of skinny because it's more of a handbook. It tells the story of how the wave came in. That's the first chapter. And it's a dramatic entry, I must say. And then after that, I talk a little bit about the context and how, I describe my sense of things. What is energy? What is source? What is, I kind of define these things so people have a sense of where I'm coming from. And then I move into ways to use it. The infinity wave has a million ways. I don't even know them all. And so, but I offer a few of them as a way to use it in daily life. And then I go on to describe the first 9 practices, downloaded, channeled practices that came to me as I was told to create workshops on the infinity wave in the very beginning. And I didn't know what the heck to do. I was like, what am I teaching? I don't even know what this thing is. So I was given these practices, and these 9 practices, if people are ready for them, they will take you into an evolutionary leap. They will provide a blueprint for making that evolutionary leap. And that's what I discovered in the many workshops that I ended up running. So I describe those practices in the book as well. And there's a way to access those practices. There's a QR code and a discounted rate, whatever, to get the practices. So if people are drawn to that, they can.
Right. So who is this book for? Is it for specific people, or is it for also the common person?
One of the reasons that it took me a while to write it was because of that. I knew that I wanted to reach a very wide audience. That means people who are just starting out on their spiritual journey, let's say, and people who were seasoned. So finding the language and the tone that would appeal to both equally was a bit of a challenge. But I think I did it based on the feedback that I received. So it's really for a very wide audience. And it's not a long book, as I mentioned. It's digestible. And it's the kind of book that you could go back to again and again and go, oh, what was that about? That little section on this or that, and it delivers. So it may be skinny, but there's not a wasted word.
Absolutely. Not a wasted word. But why is it for common people? What does it want them to do? To read this book and to how to use particular things that you have written in this book. As you said, many people may have heard about similar things, may feel about similar things, but don't know what it was. What do you want them to do with this? Why did the guides tell you to write this book? Where guides are themselves so powerful, they could have done the same thing themselves in their own way. What they are trying to achieve through you. Why to take the difficult route?
Well, because it's part of my evolution to have written it. That it was part of my I had to overcome my resistance. I had to carve out time in a very busy life. I had to do a lot of things to get this baby out. And so that was part of my journey, and it was important for me. But the whole goal is to get the infinity the infinity wave into the hands of every person on the planet. If we all practiced wave energy, if we all did that, we would have a much different world. We would have it. See, we don't have time to go to the caves, right, for a couple of years and figure it out that way. We need something that works quickly in today's fast moving reality. We need something that can quick, just in a nanosecond, click us into another another modality. Like if you're standing in line waiting to get your groceries and somebody's taking a long time and you're in a hurry and you're feeling impatient, well, that's not a great energy. And if you're feeling that agitation, you are affecting all the people around you, right? So in that moment, you go, oh, yeah, I remember. And then you take the infinity wave and you imagine it from head to toe or in your heart or wherever you want it. And all of a sudden, your whole system starts to calm down. And now you're emanating love and compassion. And you don't have to manufacture it. It's already in the wave. So it changes your state. It changes the state of people around you very, very quickly. And I have dozens and dozens of examples that people have sent to me or that I experience myself.
Right, right, Hope. So, why is it that every common person needs all this compassion, who are generally fighting for working hard for their bread and butter? Why not all these people who are holding so much of power of, big companies, corporations, technology companies, and everything? Why not the guides reach out to them and inject that power of compassion, that infinity wave into their heads, so that that compassion will really spread to every corner? Or because people use their products, help us understand why not that way. Isn't that a simpler way, Hope?
Well, I'm sure that the guides are trying that. How it tends to work, as I understand it, is they find a willing vessel. And I was a willing vessel, and I had proclaimed myself a willing vessel 3 days before the wave came in, after having gone through a pretty intense initiation. And so when you declare that, to the powers that be, they go, oh, there she is, we'll take her. And they use the willing vessel to be their communication tool. Most people, and I mean, this is not a judgment, but unless you've done a certain amount of work over the years, you might not be as receptive to these kinds of messages coming in. It just so happened that I was in a state of receptivity and I was willing. And so it came through me. So I can't say that the powers that be, the people who are in these corporations and so on and so forth aren't receiving messages, but they may not be able to translate them and they may not be able to move forward with them. And that may not be their life's work. It happens to be my life's work. And I didn't know that at the time, but I came to understand that, yes, this is part of my life plan that I set out for myself before I came in.
Absolutely. So how can one integrate this infinity wave in themselves? Is there a way to do it, or closing the eyes itself will help do it, or we have to go to another dimension to understand it? How does it work?
It is so simple and easy, and that's the point. Look, we have many examples of philosophies and religions that have come and gone and that still exist on the planet that are quite complicated. And there are many rungs of the ladder to get to this point and that point and evolve and da, 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 da. It's very complicated. And it doesn't have to be, is my opinion at this point. It does not have to be that complicated. This is a simple, uncorruptible way to access quickly another modality, another way of being in this reality. It uses your imagination. You can do it with your eyes open, your eyes closed. I give a lot of examples in the book about how to do it. It couldn't be easier. You could teach it to a child in 30 seconds and they would take to it. They would love it. It's so I think part of the confusion over all these eons that humanity has been walking around on the planet, part of the confusion is that we have to turn ourselves into pretzels in order to access a higher consciousness. And I don't believe we do. Part of the confusion is we have to go through another person and, a priest or whatever to access the higher dimensions. And we don't. We are born with the blueprint to be able to access directly. And that's what this is here to help us do. The infinity wave is like connection immediately. And people are funny because we've been programmed for so long that that's not the case, that when it happens, they kind of they get so shocked. Wow, that really worked. Oh my gosh, like they can't make sense of it in their minds because we have been so programmed. So as people use the wave, I say play with it. You don't have to decide that it's perfect or that it's this or it's that. Just play with it and see what happens. See how life changes around you. See how you shift quickly in a heated conversation or in traffic when you're getting irritated or whatever. The proof is in the pudding, and it doesn't cost anything. I've just described how to use the wave. Figure 8 of flowing water. Imagine that in your body. Imagine that in your heart. Imagine that down into the earth, up over your head. Boom, you've got it. Run with it. The book gives you more examples, and it's more detailed. But basically, just by talking about it, the wave is out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you think, Hope, that with your 2010 vision, if I understand, do you think because things like infinity wave, we are now moving towards the different sort of human evolution, not the way Darwin used to talk about that physical sort of a thing is gone. Now it will be just in spiritual form, and infinity wave is also a part of that, or maybe a big part of that, or maybe even full part of that. How would you want to see it?
Well, that is my favorite topic to talk about because that is what it's about. We are evolving quite quickly now. And, the old models of evolution seem to be very slow. And they happened in the background, and we didn't even think about them because they worked so slowly. And for a long time, we thought that human beings, as we are right now, or as we have been in the last, say, 20 years, are sort of the peak, and there's nowhere else to go. Well, this wonderful man, Teilhard de Chardin, who was a priest and an anthropologist and really a Renaissance man in the mid-1800s, he had the idea that humanity would evolve into the superhuman and that our heads would actually be larger. Well, guess what? They have been getting larger. Our skulls over the last 30 years have been growing in size. But it's not just the physical skull. It is our capacity for our brains to come online and start to do more things, start to access more realms, much more ESP, much more capability of even bilocation, or all the many things that we consider only the masters could do. Now we are all evolving into the capability of doing. And it's not for the sake of doing the trick, having it's kind of like a parlor trick, right? It's not for the sake of that. It's for the sake of pushing the boundaries of what we think we are. And the wave opens up the parameter to start to feel, oh, geez, I'm more than just this mortal coil, this physical body. And my mind is non-local. I have a brain. but I'm connected to a non-local field, and that non-local field can work with me. There are lots and lots of teachers who have taught about this, but the wave is a way to connect with that field very, very quickly and be conscious about it. So how I see it is that instead of evolution happening somewhere in the background now, we are conscious of our evolution. We are choosing how we're going to evolve. I am choosing to feed myself things like the wave, things like meditation, things like beautiful sound, things like nature. I'm choosing to evolve with those things consciously rather than going around, just randomly listening to whatever kind of music, not realizing that that music has an effect on my body and my consciousness. Really being mindful about what we're digesting in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because it matters a lot. And not just for us, but as I said, our fields emanate into other fields and affect them. So once we take responsibility like that, all kinds of different choices get made.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, while researching for this book or while thinking about working on this, was there anything that surprised you about the topic itself, or about, about yourself or working on this?
Well, by the time the whole journey has been full of surprises. It's been nothing but surprise. And apparently I like surprises because it's been, not all the surprises are easy, but I understand that they're for my highest good. And I think that's one of the key shifts in consciousness that we can all make. And that is to realize that life is happening for us, not to us. Once we accept that, we look back on our lives and now we have a new lens to review. Say, oh, well, if that was happening, that horrible thing that happened, that painful thing that happened, if that was happening for me, then what was it that I gained from it? What did I learn from that? Or did I? And has that happened again and again? Does that mean I haven't yet learned that lesson? Because it'll circle around. So for me, I think it wasn't so much surprises when I wrote the book, but because I wrote the book so many years after the wave came in, I had to review those early years, especially that first year. That was nothing but surprises. I was never a channeler. All of a sudden, I had these deep, slow voices coming out and, just coughing up a beautiful meditation that involved the infinity wave. It stretched my capacities in every way. It was a way to look and experience. I just got stretched. I got stretched big time. And I was asked to do things that I was not comfortable doing. So when I wrote the book, I went back and revisited those things. I didn't want to teach anything spiritually. I didn't feel, even after a lifetime, literally since I was 9, of spiritual curiosity and learning, I didn't feel equipped or adequate to teach. But they told me, it's time. They had a foot in my back pushing me forward. And they said, it's time. And I said, but I don't even know what the infinity wave is. And they said, well, we'll give you little tidbits along the way. I had to trust. I had to, really severely trust. And that was the biggest surprise. And I talk about it in the book, was the degree to which I had not been in trust. I thought I was in trust, but it's not until you kind of stand naked, not literally, but stand nakedly in front of a group of people who have paid you to talk about something they don't know about and you don't really know about yet. That's trust, right? And I then figured out how to walk hand in hand with my guide team and lean on them and trust that the words that they gave me were the words that everybody needed to hear. And I really started to work hand in glove with my guidance. That's real trust. I always say you can't know until you have the courage to leap that the universe is going to catch you. That's where
Absolutely.
the gold is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hope. So, in a nutshell, what key message takeaways that you want your readers from this book to take away with them?
Well, I would like to express that every person has the capacity and the responsibility to manage their own evolution. And I would like them to understand how important that is. They may feel like a tiny being on a big planet in a big universe, and yet we know that as the quantum field works, every single thing we think or do affects the whole. So take the infinity wave and practice getting into a state of love and compassion. And with that, you start the ripple effect that will change the world. So that's my main message.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Anything else in the pipeline apart from this book now? Anything else in terms of course that you want people to know about Hope?
Well, yes, actually, two things. Thanks for asking. One is that I am actually going to be teaching an Infinity Wave course on the Shift Network starting this September. And that is the first time that I have an online Infinity Wave course, and I'm super excited about it. Secondly, I am creating an online do it yourself course on dowsing. A lot of people want to learn how to dowse, and they've asked me over the years. So I am putting that together, and that'll be available hopefully in September as well. So those are two
Wonderful.
things coming up.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn about all this from you, Hope, also from your book and the upcoming course. A lot of people would want to connect with you. What's the best way for them to do so, Hope?
Well, if you go to my website, which is spreadinfinitehope.com, you can sign up and you will receive my weekly newsletter and an invitation to my Monday events. I have many free things on Monday nights and meditations, all channeled, brand new, appropriate in the moment. And I interview people over the month. I have a lot of things that are free. And then you can see what else. I also take people around the world to sacred places. So if you're signed up on my website, then you will hear about what the next one is.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KAJ. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.